If you're a US citizen, there are some places you might want to avoid. It's not all sunshine and rainbows everywhere, and some countries aren't very welcoming to Americans. We'd appreciate it if you could give this video 5,000 likes as we discuss the 10 countries where Americans aren't welcome in 2024. Number 10, Myanmar. As of 2024, Myanmar, a Southeast Asian nation with nearly 55 million people, isn't very welcoming to Americans. This unfriendliness is due to a mix of historical and current events. Following a military coup in February 2021, Myanmar has been in turmoil, with civil unrest and armed conflict becoming daily occurrences. For Americans considering a visit, navigating the visa process and dealing with travel warnings is quite challenging. The US government advises against traveling to Myanmar because of these ongoing issues, including the unpredictable enforcement of local laws and limited healthcare resources. Imagine needing a visa that takes at least 3 working days to process, only to arrive in a place where travel is strongly discouraged. Moreover, US sanctions on Myanmar do not help, making American tourists less popular guests. Number 9, Libya, like Syria, is a country where ongoing conflict makes it a no-go zone for American tourists. The US Department of State strongly advises against all travel to Libya due to crime, terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The 2011 Libyan civil war and the murder of the US ambassador during the Benghazi attack have severely strained US-Libya relations. For American citizens, obtaining a tourist visa for Libya is a complex process. As of 2024, tourist visas are not being issued because of the ongoing political instability. However, you can still travel to Libya on a business visa. In normal circumstances, a business visa application requires a valid passport, completed application forms, the application fee, passport-sized photos, and an official letter of invitation from a Libyan-based company. If you choose to travel to Libya, despite the risks, it is strongly advised to register your travel plans with the US Embassy through the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program step. Number 8. Venezuela, with over 28 million people, has a strained relationship with the US. Economic sanctions, political disputes, and mistrust make Venezuela a tough destination for Americans. As of August 2023, the poor economic situation has forced over 7.7 million people to leave the country, highlighting the tough conditions many Venezuelans face. For Americans wanting to visit, the visa process is complicated and filled with obstacles. It's not just about paperwork. The system is inherently skeptical, if not outright hostile, towards Americans. Once in the country, the high cost of living and tense atmosphere make daily life feel challenging. Around 23,000 US citizens live in Venezuela, mostly in Caracas, but they often feel like unwelcome guests in a country divided by politics and economic hardship. Number 7. Turkmenistan, a Central Asian nation known for its unusual former president and the famous door-to-hell crater, is next on our list. This country, with its vast deserts, ancient ruins, and striking modern buildings, is one of the hardest places for Americans to visit due to its strict visa policies and the government's general distrust of foreign visitors. The US has limited diplomatic relations with Turkmenistan, mainly due to issues around human rights and democracy. Turkmenistan's tough visa process is a holdover from its Soviet past and current autocratic rule. Unlike many countries that offer online applications, Turkmenistan requires you to apply through an embassy or consulate, specifically the embassy in Washington, D.C. The most challenging part is obtaining a letter of invitation, which you need to arrange through a Turkmen travel agency. This process can take several weeks, and approval is not guaranteed. The embassy might deny your application without providing a reason. Most tourists must book a guided tour for their entire stay. The only exception is a transit visa allowing up to 5 days of travel, but even this requires a detailed itinerary and is often denied. Upon arrival, you must register with the state migration service within 3 days, usually handled by your tour operator. Failure to register can lead to fines and problems when leaving the country. Number 6. Saudi Arabia used to be difficult for American tourists to visit due to its strict visa policies. The country, governed by Islamic law, mainly issued visas for business travelers, religious pilgrims, and family members of residents. However, in 2019, Saudi Arabia introduced a new tourist visa as part of its Vision 2030 program to diversify its economy beyond oil. This change marks a significant shift from its past restrictive policies, allowing Americans to apply for a tourist visa online. The process for the e-visa is relatively simple and quick. Applicants need to fill out an online form, submit a passport-sized photo, and pay a fee. The visa is valid for 1 year, allows multiple entries, and permits stays of up to 90 days each. Despite these improvements, women travelers still face some restrictions. Women under 25 must be accompanied by a family member, while women over 25 can travel alone. Although the government has relaxed the strict dress code, women are still expected to dress modestly. Saudi Arabia is home to 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, including the historic city of Diriyah and the rock art of the Hale region. While exploring, remember that some sites may be off limits to non-Muslims, and it's important to follow local guidelines on respectful behavior. Number 5. Eritrea, located in the Horn of Africa, is often called the North Korea of Africa because of its secretive policies and strict government. The US and Eritrea have a tense relationship due to several issues, including Eritrea's human rights record and the detention of local employees at the US Embassy. Getting a tourist visa for Eritrea is very difficult. Even with all necessary documents, approval is not guaranteed and can seem random. The process can take several months. Even with a visa, your freedom to travel in Eritrea is limited. To travel outside the capital, Asmara, foreign visitors need a travel permit from the Eritrean government. This process can be long and uncertain, and permits are usually only given for specific tourist areas. Traveling beyond these areas without a permit can result in fines or other penalties. Despite the challenges of visiting Eritrea, those who have been there often talk about its unique charm, from the Art Deco architecture of Asmara to the beautiful landscapes of the Dahlak archipelago. Number 4. When we talk about places where Americans might not feel welcome, Afghanistan often comes to mind for many reasons. With about 38 million people, Afghanistan has been at the center of global conflicts for many years. Why might an American not feel welcome in Afghanistan? For starters, the US Department of State advises its citizens not to travel there due to risks of terrorism, wrongful detention, kidnapping, and crime. It's like Afghanistan is saying, visit at your own risk, but with a strong hint of please don't. This warning isn't just for show, it's based on a harsh reality where many terrorist groups are active, and Americans are prime targets for kidnapping and wrongful detention. Imagine planning a trip only to find out you're a target for a group you've never heard of. The visa process for Americans wanting to enter Afghanistan is very challenging. US citizens must have a valid passport and Afghan visa to enter and leave. Without a valid visa, you might face deportation, passport confiscation, and heavy fines. It's like the country's way of saying, forgot something? Too bad. If you think getting a visa on arrival might be an option, think again. That process requires letters from the Ministry of Tourism or the Ministry of Information and Culture. Tourist visas are usually single entry, valid for 3 months with a 1-month authorized stay. But let's not make it all seem negative. The relationship between Afghanistan and the United States has many layers, like an onion. If you peel back the layers, you'll find a history of diplomatic ties dating back to 1935, with moments of cooperation and mutual support. Number 3. Bhutan. Moving on to the peaceful Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan, the difficulty in traveling here is not because of politics but because of their special tourism policy to protect their environment and culture. Bhutan allows only a limited number of tourists each year. Americans need to pay a daily fee of $200 to $250. This policy, called High Value, Low Impact, aims to promote sustainable tourism. While this fee might seem high at first, it's important to know what it includes. The fee covers accommodation in 3-star hotels, all meals, a licensed tour guide, transportation within Bhutan, camping equipment for trekkers, and a sustainable tourism royalty. This royalty goes towards free education, healthcare, and infrastructure development in Bhutan. In essence, it's an all-inclusive package that directly helps the country's welfare. Number 2. Iran. With a population of around 83 million people, Iran is a land of ancient history and beautiful landscapes, but it has complicated relations with the United States. The cold reception Americans might face dates back to the 1979 Iran hostage crisis, when Iranian students took over the US embassy, leading to a triple 4-day standoff. Today, not much has changed in terms of US-Iran relations. The US State Department has issued a Level 4 travel advisory for Iran, which means think twice before traveling there. This is due to risks of terrorism, civil unrest, and the arbitrary arrest and detention of US citizens. Americans, especially those with dual nationality, can find themselves in jail on charges like espionage or posing a threat to national security. Number 1. North Korea. North Korea, officially known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea (DPRK), has a population of around 25 million people. It's like that one neighbor who never comes to the block parties but watches everything from their window. The relationship between the US and North Korea has been chaotic, with decades of political tensions, nuclear threats, and a war that technically hasn't ended since an armistice was signed in 1953. Why are Americans not exactly welcomed in North Korea? For starters, the US government strongly advises against travel to North Korea due to the serious risk of arrest and long-term detention. Remember Otto Warmbier, an American student who ended up in a coma and later died after being detained in North Korea for allegedly trying to steal a propaganda poster. That incident highlighted the extreme risks of visiting the country. Getting into North Korea isn't easy. Since September 2017, the US has banned its citizens from using their passports to enter North Korea except under very specific circumstances. This move essentially puts a giant do not enter sign on North Korea for American tourists. Even before this ban, getting a visa as an American was tough. You'd have to go through a specialized travel agency and be part of a tightly controlled tour group, always accompanied by a guide who ensures you don't step out of line, literally and figuratively. If you do manage to get in, the experience is unique but very controlled. There are strict rules about what you can and cannot do, see or photograph. Want to talk to a local? Think again, it's illegal to talk to North Koreans without authorization. Making jokes about the leadership or the country can get you in serious trouble. It's a level of control that's hard for many Americans to understand, coming from a land where freedom of speech and movement are taken for granted. In essence, visiting North Korea as an American is like walking on eggshells while blindfolded. You never know if your next step will get you in trouble. The strict visa process, the potential for misunderstandings leading to detention, and the overall atmosphere of surveillance make it a challenging destination. Yet the allure of the forbidden can be tempting for some. But remember, curiosity killed the cat. And in North Korea, you might not get 9 lives,